start congratulating you. You are currently at TIFF for the world premiere of the full-length version. How does it feel?
We're very excited. Yeah, this has been a long time coming, I think, since, starting off with the short and developing it into a feature. I think it's been sort of many years of this journey, and it's really great to be here, to be in such a huge festival with such a international reach, right? So we're very excited.
This is like not the first rodeo either because you went around different film festivals for the short. So how does it feel the second time around and some people already being familiar?
It's we got to travel with the short quite a lot, but
But
because it was COVID,
COVID.
it was the height of COVID. It was all of 2020 that the
Yeah.
short sort of traveled. We actually didn't get to travel with the film. So this is really kind of the culmination in a way
Yeah.
of the entire journey
Totally.
for us. And it's very meaningful, very emotional.
Zoe, how did you feel to know that you were returning?
So happy. Like I'm really happy to be here in Toronto. It's like the first time. So I'm so excited and nervous because I haven't seen yet the film in a big screen, and thinking that I'm gonna see it here in TIFF is just amazing. I mean, it's such a good festival with good films, and as Lucía said, with like international, it's amazing, really. So really happy. Yeah.
I don't know about you, Zoe, but as I watched the short film and I watched your full length. And like, did you by any chance ask Lucia, why did you change my name?
Actually, I think we talked about it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I mean, it wasn't so important.
No, I don't think
Because
it's a huge determining
no,
factor. I think I wanted to, for myself and for you and for everybody involved creatively, also distinguish both pieces, right? Even though they're coming from the same
mm,
place, there are many details, and the story itself, takes you different down a different road. So I think it was helpful to have
it was important somehow to differentiate
yeah,
that, I feel
to
like.
to know that we were, starting from somewhere, but also going somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Feel what were the pressures, Lucia? I'm bringing in the full length, get to give us full more depth.
Um, well, it's a challenge, I think, right? To take the same sort of themes and try to create something new. I think for me there was always more to this story. I love the short film and I love the world we created and the tone that we were able to put on screen. But I also knew that I wanted to explore other aspects of this idea, right? Of this projection, this idea of projecting the deceased onto a person. And for example, right, I wanted to create a main character that felt more empowered in a way, that she felt this sort of presence or this idea that people were seeing her grandmother in her, but also her own curiosity in sort of finding out who this woman was, right? And her interpretation of it. Um, I think also with bringing in the rest of the family and the other characters, the grandfather, for example, has a much bigger role,
And different.
very different, right? Because he in the short, you're not quite sure whether or not he's aware of what's happening. And in this case, in the feature, I wanted to implicate him more, right? For him to make that active decision to grieve in this very playful way with his granddaughter and see where that took them.
Now, where did the idea come from the beginning? Because grief is tough. Not to mention for a teenager.
Yeah. I think I was always very interested in this idea of projections, right? And how grief sort of connects us in an eerie way to sort of keeping our loved ones around for longer. And, you know, it was just puzzling to me that we could, through this sensation of grief, that someone could look at someone else and see another person, right? That is a very powerful thing. So I was very curious to sort of follow that idea. And what if a teenage girl who is in that point in her life, right, where she's trying to find herself, to look for references or heroes or whatever, right, to kind of model herself after, she sees this, right, she has this calling and decides to play pretend. And how does that transform you, right? How do you change? How does your family react to that? Yeah.
Zoe, having done the short and then now the full length, how did you dive in differently? I mean, different names.
Well, I feel like it was easy because we knew each other. You know, we already did the short film together. So for me, it was just like I was pretty chill, you know, since the first moment because I trust Lucía. I know Lucía, so it felt like really a safe space, you know, to create and to discover together where we wanted to, bring Cata what was her way. And also with Lluís Homar, was so easy. He's such an experienced actor, and I could learn so much from him. So I was feeling super good, and it was an easy process, like from the before filming to the moment in set. So yeah, and I felt I already had some, inner feeling of what I had to do because of the short film. I had this connection already since like 6 years. So that was also something new and nice to have. Yeah.
Grounds you
Yeah,
in a way. I also think we both like to work in a way where we like asking ourselves more questions than providing or than finding the answers. That
all the
really
time.
it's a very fun, creative space to work
Yeah.
in that way.
I think we are both like this. So we
Yeah.
connected a lot with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, as we said before in another interviews, this thing of like more, questioning things instead of like just answering them. That's how it felt for Forastera in a way. And we could connect with that. Yeah.
Now in this film, I feel like there's a new character in a way, the house, that we got to see a little bit more. But you maintained a lot of the original. You had the CDs hanging, the bugs, a little bit of like the way the armor was. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's odes to the short film there. Yeah, I felt like the house is such a big character in this film because it's really the container of this character's imagination, right? I knew I wanted a house that faced the ocean and that was a little bit of a labyrinth, or that felt like a labyrinth in a way where visually for us, it would be easy to create that disorienting feeling of not knowing exactly where each room is in reference to one another. So it's actually quite a challenge to find that on the island because a lot of the houses that are in the coast or like front facing are like, they call them like fisherman houses. So they're quite small and sort of like cubes. And so the public parts of the house, the shared spaces is right in the middle. And there's nowhere to hide. And I was looking for those hallways, those, closed doors. So when we found this place, it was like perfect, really, really incredible. And I think we worked very hard with, the creative departments, the cinematographer, the production designer, the costume designer, to kind of create a house that felt like, these two grandparents live there, but it's also sort of in a way stuck in time a little bit. It feels like a bit of a time capsule, and I was also very interested in playing with sort of a very stylized color palette where everything is pastel and sort of everything matches. So there's a real aspect to it, right? You believe this house exists, but it's also almost a little too straight.
Yeah.
There's this artificiality that kind of, I think, plays into the themes of the film where,
Like,
performance and
postcards.
playing
Like-
pretend. Yes, exactly. Like a postcard where it's like, this is too perfect. Yeah.
Cinematography you talked about, which was phenomenal. Not to mention the ones with the view in the ocean. And you, Zoe, get to kayak. How was that?
That was challenging.
I remember we were talking about it, like, let's go practice.
Yeah,
At the end,
yeah.
we didn't practice.
No.
Yeah.
No. We went right into it.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember with one scene in the kayak, it was like super cold actually when we were filming. So I was like totally wet and it was like in the kayak, like, yeah, now where?
This is
It
a
was,
summer film.
yeah, that was a bit like a comedy behind,
Yeah.
that you don't see it with the crew and everyone in the boat, like
Yeah.
moving.
Shooting in
Yeah.
water is definitely a challenge. I
Yes,
think
it
weather
was.
is always like a huge factor, but when you're in the water, you're sort of completely out of your element, really.
Yeah.
But you did amazing, really.
At the end, it was okay. Yeah. It was after a storm.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
remember that day. But it was good. It was good, it was easy, you just move like this. That's it. Yeah.
All in the hip.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like kayaking. And when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, a kayaker. I got all excited.
I'm not a professional one. No. I tried my best, but it's complicated some moments.
You did great. You did great. Um, Speaking of the scenes in water, there was an underwater scene and adding a little creature to it. Can you talk about directing that?
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, shooting underwater is very complicated, and I mean you're sort of up against all the elements, but it's also very alive. There's something that is so of the moment to that you can't fabricate, right? So it's quite special, even though it's nerve-wracking, right? And as a director, you're quite far away because you're, either in land or on a boat, adjacent to your actors. You can't quite, be as close as you want to be there, but yeah, there's something really tactile about that experience.
Can you talk about the scene where you have Catalina facing the mirror and kind of trying to touch up in her a little bit of makeup, and there's that three dimension scene and the yeah,
The
trying to
beauty
figure
mark.
out the beauty mark, yes.
Yeah, I think that is a turning point, I think, for her character,
Yeah.
right? Where she is, up until this point, she's sort of dressing up and playing pretend, but in that moment when she's trying to wipe off this beauty mark, but it's actually there, right? It kind of is the beginning of her sort of imagination blurring with her reality, and how those two things sort of become very intertwined for her.
That was brilliant, very creative. We know obviously that Catalina, the loss, the grandma, and there's a scene where it's like there's the presence of grandma, and you played it as it's not a shadow, like usually it would be like a shadow type of thing, but instead you used a reflection. How did you come up with that idea? It seemed to a little more on the positive side.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, sort of the ghostly elements of the film, I wanted to introduce in a more casual way. I think one thing to note is like if you're going to watch this film thinking it's a ghost story and you're going to be sort of spooked or shocked in the way that sort of ghost stories or that genre convention is normally used. This is not that movie, right? In fact, I was very interested in this idea of maybe you might not even see the ghost, right? It sort of passes, comes and goes like that. And I think for me, that's exactly how the characters are interacting with it. The ghost is there because of the people who need it, right? The characters who want to see it, and those who don't, right? So yeah, it was this idea of likeness, of this sort of warm presence, right? Throughout.
Zoe, how did you prepare with such and having to portray the emotions without a lot of dialogue, but just the stare, um, facial gestures?
I don't know. I don't know. I just do it, you know. It's just I think I knew exactly what, you know, talking a lot with Lucía, what Cata was going through, and I really felt it, you know. I was in some scenes, I didn't have to do anything, you know, I didn't have to force anything. It just like it was there, you know. And usually it happens when I'm really into the film, you know. There's this thing I always say, when I start filming until I finish, it's like I'm in a bubble. You know, I'm in this character bubble, you know. So I'm like Cata for like, you know, those 5 weeks, and it's just there. Yeah, so I think also the script for me was amazing. And directly I got the energy, you know, from the first moment when we read it, and I knew okay, how I should portray it. And I think, yeah, talking a lot and like also feeling super connected with you, Omar, like acting, and it felt super easy somehow. Yeah.
Okay, so if you were together for 5 weeks, how do you shake it off at the end of the day to get some rest?
I mean, we were all like, you know, in the same hotel, you know,
Yeah.
like the crew, so it was super like family gathering
Yes.
feeling for 5 weeks. So we had some rest, but we were like all the time together. That's
Yeah.
why at the same time it wasn't resting, you know what I mean? You're like filming and then you see each other in the hotel later on, you know? Um, yeah.
I think too, like it's heavy subject matter for that character, and there's a lot that Cata is going through that she can't quite put words to, but we also made sure to that there was a lightness on
Mm,
set, right? That we were
mm.
enjoying this process and that it wasn't all the time so heavy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't heavy
Mm,
from the outside. I think it
mm,
was just, yeah, and I think I really love this thing of like when you don't understand something, you know, Kata is going through such a chaotic moment. I
mm,
think she's not really aware what's going on in some moments, you know. And
mm,
I think that was important as well, sometimes to go out of it, obviously,
mhm.
and be like, okay, let's go step back.
Professional.
Well, thank you so much both for your time. Congratulations. Continue enjoying TIFF. I'm jealous. I'm here in LA at home. Wish I was there.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
You're welcome. Gracias. Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.